Just to kind of recap Alabama, certainly not the outcome that we were looking for. Dug ourselves a hole early with the 14-0 deficit, and tough to get out of that. Thought there were some positives to take away from it. Thought we answered back with a touchdown there early in the first quarter. Moved the ball somewhat well between the 20s, weren't able to punch it in at any point in the game. And then I thought our defense in the second half, only giving up 3 points, was a positive. Thought our kids fought, thought they competed, thought they played hard. But credit goes to Alabama against a team of their caliber. We didn't execute well enough to earn the right to win. So so going to take away the positives and move on from there. It was great to have Elton Jenkins and Jeffrey Simmons, back to join us for the game. Let us out on the dog walk, and to have 2 players of their caliber. Both guys who did an awesome job at Mississippi State be back around the program. I think that was great for everyone to see. Having Dak have another huge day yesterday, over 400 yards passing with a big win. That was a positive. Thought that the crowd was awesome. Into the game, stayed the whole time, provided us a good energy and good boost. And I thought all those things were positives. Heading into Abilene Christian, FCS program. So have been down that road. Coach has done a real nice job, building that program, and had a ton of success as a Division II coach. I think entering this job that he was a winningest active coach in NCAA, and once again having been a part of that and playing against an FBS program, the kids look at it as a chip on their shoulder, a chance to compete, against players at the highest level, and we were fortunate enough to get 2 upsets, one over Temple and one over Army. So I know they're going to be fired up. They're going to be excited. Night game at home, we're going to have a huge homecoming crowd. Fans are going to be into it. Fans are going to be excited, so we're excited to get them out. And last 2 games of the season at home, and kids are very excited about it. So, any questions?
Questions? We'll get a mic to you. We'll start with Ben.
Jay mentioned it some there, having been at the FCS level and seeing gone up against D1 teams. What is that like as a coach in that position, and a team leading that position?
Yeah, you kind of go into it with a very aggressive mindset and attitude, anyone who puts on a helmet or plays a game at this level, or any sport for that matter, wants to believe they can play at the highest level. And like I said, the kids enter the game with a chip on their shoulder. They go in with everything to gain and nothing to lose. And like I said, we were 2-2. We lost to Cincinnati and lost to Army, and then beat Temple and then beat Army. But it's just a game where the kids are excited about it, the coaching staff's excited about it, and they go in looking to have something to prove.
Go back to Tom.
Just 2 questions. First, just an update on Kylan Hill and also Dedrick Thomas. I don't think we talked about Dedrick on Saturday, but just their status.
Yeah, Kylan's upper body and Dedrick was lower body, and both of those guys went through a little bit of practice yesterday, and we anticipate them being ready to go on Tuesday for practice.
And then next question, just I know we talked a little bit about it Saturday without seeing the film, but going back and taking a look at the passing game, some of the one of the big things was deep shots that just didn't connect in terms of moving the ball downfield. What did you see that could have been done differently, or was it more of what Alabama was doing? Yeah, kind of a validation of what I thought, post game without seeing the film. Some of it was protection, some of it was route, and then some of it was their coverage. So, we took a number down the field, weren't able to connect on a lot of them, hit the big one to Kylan. But, they got 2 great long cover corners, and they got a ferocious pass rush, and they make it very, very difficult to push the ball down the field, and you got to fit the ball into small windows, and had some that either just tipped off the hands or were just out of reach. So probably a combination of all those things.
Brian?
Sort of the opposite of what the first question was. As a coach of an FBS program playing an FCS program, how do you fight against overconfidence, or just the thought that, hey, we can just show up and out-talent this team?
Yeah, I think it goes back to kind of our 1-0 mindset or mentality that regardless of the opponent, that you're competing kind of against a standard and with a process rather than focusing on who you're playing. So that was something we emphasized to the kids yesterday in the team meeting, that regardless of who we're playing, opponent 1, opponent 12, FCS, FBS, that we're going to approach it the same way, and that the process will determine the product on Saturday.
Go to Logan.
Joe, you talked about not making big pass plays this past week. How much will you try to use this week as an opportunity to get that part of your offense back going?
Yeah, we need to get that back clicking, and kind of get Osiris going a little bit more. Dedrick, Stephen Guidry, get get the quarterbacks back and confident. But I think this is, like you mentioned, a good opportunity, run game and pass wise, to kind of work on some of those things in a game, setting, and get those back to being effective, heading into the last week of the regular season.
Go over here to Ben again.
On the topic of pass game, I mean, you guys have tried to get, it seems like you guys have tried to get Colin a little more involved at that 19-yarder set up a touchdown. I mean, is that something you see as, kind of the next step in getting him a little more involved and maybe opening up that pass game a little bit?
Yeah, he had a decent number of receptions last year, and probably down a little bit from a catch standpoint this year because his attempts from a rushing standpoint are up. But like we talked about last week, from their coverage structure and how they play, there are very few one-on-one matchups where there's space, and having the running back isolated on the will linebacker was one where we wanted to take some shots. But certainly, with Colin and a player of his ability, we want to get him as many touches as we can, whether it be by handoff or by throw. So, if there's instances in the game plan where we can get him out of space and get him the ball, with receptions, anytime he has a ball in his hand, that's a good thing.
At the beginning of the year, you always talk about earmarking some games where true freshmen could play in. I'm assuming this would probably be one of those. How much are you looking forward to getting those guys on the field and getting them some snaps?
Yeah, held them after practice yesterday and talked about how all the ones who are eligible were activated, and certainly the ones that we want to maintain their red shirt. We won't see those guys, but the ones who have games available, if the game situation dictates, and particularly on special teams, we're going to try to get those guys, some game experience.
Paul?
Kind of two questions, Coach, both kind of dealing with injuries. How do you kind of approach that from a cautious standpoint? I know you're not going to overlook anybody, but playing in FCS, how cautious will you be with some guys that are banged up? And what's the situation with C.J. Morgan's absence, and who do you see filling in those roles?
Yeah, you go down the list. We went over this morning. Fletcher Adams out for the year with the lower body. Alan Love out for the year with a lower body. C.J. Morgan now he is out for the year, unfortunately, with a lower body. Bo Smitherman out for the year with a lower body, and the same with Cam Young. So I think in game 11 of the season, which has been very physical against a rigorous schedule, and going into the season with 10 guys already out, and then compounding that with the injuries throughout the season, I think we've got to do a really good job on two fronts this week. One, how we control the physicality in practice and making sure that we're able to get to the game with the available bodies, and then seeing how the kind of course of the game plays out. And you ever want to put the cart before the horse, but if there's a situation where maybe you can get in some of the reserves or younger guys at the latter stages of the game, that would be a positive. But certainly we're not counting on that. But if the situation warrants or dictates, you'd love for that to happen.
Will Fred Peters start for CJ or?
Right now you got the available. It's going to be Marcus Murphy plays that position. Then you got Sean Preston and then Colin Duncan are the guys that play that position as well.
Will Marcus play this week?
Let you know Saturday. Wish I didn't have to keep answering that, but unfortunately.
Oh, sorry. Let's go to David and then we'll go to Ben.
Your answer there about not putting the cart before the horse and then talking about working on some run plays and pass plays to be effective going into the last week of the season. Are your thoughts, the staff thoughts, already turning to the last week of the season?
No, our focus, we need to be focused on the task at hand, and certainly everyone knows what's looming on the back end of this. Huge game, huge rivalry game, and our focus will turn to that the second the clock ticks zero on Abilene Christian. But right now, all of our guys' focus and attention, and players and the staff, are on doing the things that are necessary to get win number 5 and beat Abilene Christian. And then when the clock hits zero, it'll be full speed ahead for the last game.
Can you talk just a little bit about the job that Coach Briner's done this year, dealing with a couple of quarterbacks that are, a true freshman and a guy that's new here and stuff, just the task that he's had and trying to get those guys up to speed and things. I know, Tommy, of course, you've been in your offense before and stuff, but just the job that he's done this year.
No, it's just a little bit of a unique situation where you have an older guy coming in, but it's your first year coaching him. And obviously I had coached Tommy for 2 years, and then you have a mid-year true freshman, and one guy playing real well to start the season gets injured, and probably getting a young guy in there a little bit before he's ready. But he's the next best available option. I think Garrett's gone in there and performed very admirably under the circumstances, and then have him kind of go down a little bit, get Tommy healthy. So even though they possess similar skill sets, each kid is coached differently, so I think he's done a nice job, balancing what Tommy does well, what Garrett does well, and then kind of formulating the coaching, off of who's available and who's in the game. But certainly not an easy task to go into almost every week, not being sure who the star is going to be based on health, and kind of balancing your game plan and your coaching off of that.
Over to Tyler.
How much do you believe that momentum can carry from one game to the next? Say if you guys do go out and play one of your best ball games of the season this week, how much do you think that could get you going, like you said, for that last week of the season?
Yeah, you don't want to count on it, but I think it's natural, and particularly with young kids, there's always going to be a residual effect one way or other that carries into the next game, and I think that's why as a coaching staff you have to do a good job, particularly on Sunday, getting them in a team meeting, and just having a very frank and candid conversation of what we did well, what we did poorly, what we need to work on, making the corrections on the practice field, and then moving on from it. But certainly, coming out of the Arkansas game, there's, like I said, excitement and momentum coming off a win, and anytime you lose, that's something that you got to battle and get the kids to forget about it. But I certainly think you don't want to bank on it, but anytime that you can, head into a pivotal week, carrying some positive momentum is always a good thing.
Joe.
You talk about that pivotal week and not putting the cart before the horse, but how does this week, particularly when the game's over on Saturday, how does that change? I know you did it last year going into that short week with a Thursday game, Thanksgiving, and all that comes with that, but just kind of what's the schedule like dealing with coming out of this game and jumping right into Ole Miss next week?
Yeah, there won't be much rest or sleep on Saturday, so the game will end 9:30, 10, and I want the coaches to spend a little bit of time grading the tape so the kids have it available to them on Sunday. But the game will end. We'll go home, take a nap. We'll come in first thing in the morning, talk a little bit about Abilene Christian, have the grade sheets ready for the kids to watch. But we'll immediately go into game planning, for Ole Miss throughout the day. We'll have a team meeting with the kids, and then they'll watch the tape on their own while we continue to game plan. We'll practice Sunday, which is what we did last year, and then essentially Monday turns into a Tuesday. Tuesday turns into kind of a hybrid Wednesday, Thursday. And then Wednesday turns into kind of a hybrid Thursday, Friday. So just making sure we get all of our game planning done in the appropriate fashion. And then also making sure that in that shortened week that we're getting all the situations in practice that we need to get to. I'm not sure how the NFL, with a Sunday game and then playing on a Thursday, I was talking to T-Buck about it a little bit, but this is challenging in and of itself. I'm not sure how that happens on a Sunday to Thursday turnaround. You essentially get one day of practice.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Hail State.